Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial for ADSR and MassiveSynth.com. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel and you want to stay up to date with all of our tutorials, you can do that at youtube.com/ADSR Tuts. That was a quick demo of the bass sound we'll be making today in Massive. And yes, that is the bass riff from Iggy Azalea's song Fancy. And no, that's not necessarily the bass sound from that song, but I just felt like playing it with that bass sound. So this bass sound is kind of a universal bass. You can use it in a lot of different genres. It's kind of plucky, crispy, snappy, however you want to describe it. But it can almost be used as a top line bass. So it's pretty versatile. You could extend the envelope times to kind of have a sustained bass and sidechain it. It's a great sound to do that with. So quick side note, I do have some compression on it, and it's acting more as a limiter. I have the ratio up past 10, so it's squashing the hell out of it, and then I have an instance of the sausage fattener just toning down some of the transients. So it is a kind of involved sound to make, so I'm going to jump right into it. First thing we're going to do is in in oscillator 1, we're going to select that. We're going to make sure that the square saw 1 wave is selected, and you're going to leave the wavetable position, the intensity, and the amp all the way up. Just crank this slider up and down tune this to -12. Alright, and now in oscillator 2, we're going to select sine square, turn the wavetable position down all the way to sine. It's going to act as our sub frequencies, and detune it down to 12. And keep the intensity where it is, and turn that amp down to about halfway, and turn the slider down to filter 2. And in oscillator 3, I'm going to select this Vulgar waveform. It's a real aggressive sound, and it kind of mix well with the saw wave. And I'm going to keep it on spectrum, and I'm going to keep this one tuned at 0. I'm just going to turn the wavetable position down. I'm going to keep the intensity amp where they are, and turn this filter slider up to filter 1. Now I'm going to activate this modulation oscillator, and I'm going to select for phase. I'm going to click on phase, and then I'm going to click on 2 for oscillator 2, so it's affecting the sine square. And I'm going to turn it down all the way because we'll modulate that with an envelope towards the end of the tutorial. And now I'm going to take the white noise, which is on by default, and just boost a little bit. Alright, so let's go on to these tabs here in the middle and get that all set up. So I'm going to turn the glide all the way down. And I'm going to turn this restart via gate, which restarts the phase response every time a note is triggered. And I'm going to go to this key tracking filter, and I'm going to select filter 1 and filter 2 instead of having set 1 and set 2. And now I'm going to go to the voicing tab and boost it up to 4 voices of Unisono to help thicken up the sound. And I'm going to select monophonic and always. That's why I turned down the glide a minute ago. Alright, and now let's go to our routing tab, and we want it routed through all 3 oscillators, and then I want insert 1 happening here, but I want the FX1 happening sooner before it goes through these stages. So it's not going to really affect the sound right now because I haven't put anything on FX1. So going to the filter section, let's select low pass 4 and low pass 2 for filter 1 and filter 2 respectively. And I'm just going to turn the resonance all the way down on the low pass 4. I'm going to keep the cutoff where it is, and I might end up boosting it later. I'm just going to turn this slider down a little bit so you can see about 3 lines starting, so the first 3 little lines. And then I'm going to turn this filter 2 up, which will now reintroduce our sine wave because that's going to filter 2. And I'm just going to turn it up, not all the way. I want to be able to see about 2 or 3 lines as well. And I'm going to boost the resonance up to halfway for this. I'm going to turn the cutoff all the way down because we'll modulate that with an envelope. So the sub frequency isn't ringing out the whole time that the envelope that controls our amp modulation is. So here is the sound so far. Alright, so now without a doubt the most important part of this sound are the envelopes. So I'm going to clear this vibrato real quick because we don't need it. And in envelope 1, I'm going to turn the attack down, keep the level up, the decay down, and the level down all the way, and we'll bring it back in as we modulate our cutoff frequency. So I'm going to drag this up and drag it almost all the way out. You don't want to see that little notch. If you see that little notch, you've gone too far. So I'm going to keep the release where it is. I'm going to turn this decay back up now. So you should start to see this line about the O on one shot there. All right, and now I'm going to go to envelope 2 and do a similar thing, but in envelope 2, the reason I'm using the second envelope is I'm going to modulate filter 2 with it and then this phase. So I'm going to turn the attack down, the level all the way, keep the level all the way up, the decay down a good amount, so this line should be right about gate, or in the middle of the word gate, and then take the level all the way down. So I'm going to modulate cutoff frequency of filter 2, and I'm also going to modulate the phase with that. All right, and now we're still basically getting almost all of filter 1, so I'm going to turn this down. So that's what's happening in filter 2. So I'm going to turn this up so it's a little bit past halfway. All right, now in our fourth envelope, because that's tied to our amp mod, I'm going to turn the decay down a pinch. I'm going to turn this level down to about halfway. I'm going to turn the release in as well. And that's all we're going to do for that. Okay, so your sound should be sounding similar to that. So now let's go to our FX1, and I'm going to select that tele tube. I'm going to crank the drive all the way up and turn the dry wet down. I'm sorry, do the inverse of that. Dry wet all the way up, drive down, so we can kind of control it quickly and easily with just the drive. So I'm just using that to thicken it up. And now I'm going to select reverb in FX2, and if I was putting this sound in a mix, I would actually use a third-party reverb, but we'll just throw it on right now. So I just have the dry wet up a little, the size down, the density kind of up a little bit, and the color down, so there's not as much high end going on. And so now I'm going to activate my EQ. And in this, I'm going to turn this boost down, this frequency down. I'm going to crank up the high shelf a good amount. All right, now let's go back to our voicing tab. And that's where I said we were going to modulate the pitch cutoff. So I'm going to turn this on. And then I'm going to select my first envelope, crosshair, and drag it into this empty box. Drag this out and then drag downwards to see that little notch. And I'll crank this up so you can hear the effect that it's causing. All right, and now to kind of round out the sound, I'm going to go down to this insert 1. And I'm going to select the frequency shifter, which is kind of a crazy insert effect. So if I crank this pitch up all the way in the dry wet, completely change the sound of this high pitch thing. So I'm going to go back to about halfway. I'm going to drag in a macro that I'll end up using, but I'm going to keep the dry wet all the way up. So right now it's not in pitch, it's not in tune with what I'm playing. So the easiest way to get that to play nicely is just take your pitch, hold down a note, and drag down until it sounds like it's in tune. And I'm going to call this sub, which is just adding some beef and some thickness. And then I'll take out a little bit of that low shelf. All right, keep it about halfway. And if your sound has too much bass in it, too much of that growly sound, just coming from that phase and filter 2, just turn it up a little bit higher past the mix knob, the mix slider for filter 1. All All right, so that is pretty much the sound, guys. If you have any questions or comments, let me know below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you haven't checked out MassiveSynth.com, head on over there. Tons of great things, Massive. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.